The shuttle shook as it entered the docking bay of Station Velkar 7. Tejo grabbed the handle above his seat and held on tight. He had traveled for 6 months through deep space to reach this place. Now, as the engines went quiet and the door began to open, he felt his heart beat faster. He was the first human to ever set foot on a Velkari station. Earth had finally made contact with the galactic community, and he was chosen to represent his entire species. It was an honor. It was also terrifying. Tejo stood up and walked toward the exit. The moment he stepped through the door, he felt something strange. His body felt lighter. Much lighter. Each step seemed to push him higher than it should. He had read about this in the mission files. The station operated at 0.4 of Earth's gravity. But reading about it and feeling it were two very different things. He looked around the docking bay. It was huge. Metal walls stretched up toward a ceiling he could barely see. Lights blinked everywhere. Machines hummed and clicked, and standing in the middle of it all were the Velkari. They were tall, very tall. Their bodies were thin and covered in a hard shell that looked like dark purple armor. They had 4 arms and 2 legs. Their heads were shaped like triangles, with large black eyes that reflected the light. They looked like insects, but bigger, much bigger. One of them stepped forward. This one wore a golden band around its neck. A sign of rank, Tejo guessed. "You are the human," the Velkari said. Its voice was sharp and clicking. But the translator device in Tejo's ear made the words clear. "Yes," Tejo said. He tried to stand tall. "I am Tejo. I come from Earth as a representative of my people. I bring greetings and hope for friendship between our species." The Velkari looked at him for a long moment. Then it made a sound. It took Tejo a second to realize it was laughing. "So small," the Velkari said. "So soft. This is what Earth sends us?" Other Velkari in the bay began to laugh too. The sound filled the large space. Tejo felt his face grow hot. But he kept his expression calm. He had been warned about this. The Velkari did not respect weakness. And to them, humans looked very weak. "I am Station Commander Rilix," the Velkari with the golden band said. "You will stay here for 1 cycle to learn our ways. If you survive, perhaps we will consider trade with your planet." "If I survive?" Tejo asked. Rilix made that laughing sound again. "Your world has very weak gravity. We know this. Your bodies are soft. Your bones are thin. Here, you will struggle. Many of my crew believe you will not last 3 days." Tejo wanted to argue. He wanted to tell them that Earth's gravity was actually stronger than most planets in the galaxy. He wanted to explain that humans had evolved under constant pressure, building dense bones and strong muscles just to walk and breathe. But he stayed quiet. Words would not change their minds. Only actions would. "I understand," Tejo said simply. Rilix seemed disappointed by this calm response. The commander had expected fear, maybe begging, but Tejo gave neither. "Follow me," Rilix said. "I will show you to your quarters." They walked through the station. Everywhere Tejo looked, he saw Velkari going about their work. They moved quickly, their thin bodies gliding across the floor with ease. Some of them stopped to stare at him. Others pointed and whispered to each other. "Floater," one of them said as he passed. "Softbone," said another. Tejo ignored them. He focused on walking normally, even though each step wanted to send him bouncing into the air. The low gravity was hard to control. He had to move slowly and carefully to avoid looking foolish. They reached a small door at the end of a long hallway. Rilix pressed a button, and the door slid open. Inside was a tiny room. A bed that was too short. A desk that was too narrow. A window that looked out into the blackness of space. "These are your quarters," Rilix said. "The lowest level. Near the waste processing. I hope you find it comfortable." Ark. Tejo stepped inside and looked around. The room smelled bad. The bed was hard. But he had slept in worse places during his training on Earth. "It will do," he said. Rilix stared at him with those big black eyes. "You are strange, human." Most species would complain. They would demand better treatment. But you accept this? I am a guest here, Tejo said. I will earn my place. Then I will earn better quarters. Rilix was silent for a moment. Then the commander turned and walked away without another word. The door closed behind it, leaving Tejo alone. He sat down on the hard bed and let out a long breath. This was going to be difficult. The Velkari had already decided he was weak. They saw his shorter body, his smooth skin, his lack of a hard shell, and they thought he was fragile. They had no idea what humans could really do. Tejo thought about Earth. He thought about the mountains he had climbed, the rivers he had swum across, the heavy packs he had carried for miles without rest. On Earth, gravity pulled at you every second of every day. It tried to crush you into the ground. And humans had evolved to fight it. Their bones were dense. Their muscles were strong. Their hearts pumped blood with enough force to reach every part of their bodies even when standing up. Here, at point 4 gravity, Tejo felt like he could jump to the ceiling if he wanted. His Earth-trained body was built to handle so much more than this station demanded. But he could not simply show off. That would create problems. The Velkari were proud. If he embarrassed them too quickly, they might turn hostile. He needed to be patient. He needed to wait for the right moment. Tejo looked out the window at the stars. Somewhere out there, Earth was spinning around its sun. His family was there. His friends. Billions of people who had never met an alien. They were all counting on him to succeed. He would not let them down. The next few days would be hard. The Velkari would test him. They would insult him. They would try to make him fail. But Tejo had been tested before. He had faced challenges that would break most people. And he was still standing. He lay back on the hard bed and closed his eyes. Tomorrow, the real work would begin. Tomorrow, he would start showing the Velkari what humans were really made of. But for now, he needed rest. Even the strongest body needed sleep. As he drifted off, Tejo smiled to himself. The Velkari thought Earth's gravity was weak. They thought it made humans soft. They had no idea how wrong they were, and soon, they would learn. The first week on Station Velkar 7 was exactly as hard as Tejo had expected, maybe harder. Every morning, he woke up to the sound of Velkari workers banging on his door. They did not need to make such noise. They did it just to bother him. When he opened the door, they would laugh and walk away. Sometimes they left garbage outside his room. Sometimes they wrote words on his door in their language. The translator told him what they meant. Floater, soft bone, gravity baby. Tejo cleaned the mess each time without complaint. He washed the words off his door. He picked up the garbage and threw it away. He never showed anger. He never showed hurt. And this seemed to frustrate the Velkari even more. His job on the station was simple. He was assigned to help in the cargo bay, moving boxes, checking supplies, cleaning floors. It was work that no Velkari wanted to do. They gave it to him because they thought it would break him. But Tejo had worked harder jobs on Earth. He had loaded trucks in summer heat. He had carried equipment up mountains. He had trained for years to be in the physical condition needed for space travel. Moving boxes in low gravity was nothing. In fact, it was almost too easy. The boxes that Velkari workers struggled with, Tejo could lift with one hand. But he was careful not to show this. He moved slowly. He pretended to struggle. He did not want to reveal his true strength. Not yet. One day, while he was working in the cargo bay, a new shuttle arrived. Tejo watched as the doors opened and several passengers stepped out. Most were Velkari traders coming to do business, but one figure was different. Shorter, softer, human. Tejo felt his heart jump with surprise and relief. Another human. Here, the woman walked toward him. She was about his age, with short black hair and sharp eyes. She moved carefully in the low gravity, just as he had when he first arrived. "You must be Tejo," she said in Korean. It felt so good to hear his own language after weeks of only translated Velkari clicking. "I am," he said. "And you are?" "Hana," she said. I am a translator. Earth Command sent me to help with diplomatic communication. They thought you might need support. Taeho smiled. Support would be welcome. It has been a difficult few weeks. Hana looked around the cargo bay. Several Velkari workers were watching them, staring at the two humans like they were animals in a zoo. I can see that, Hana said quietly. They do not think much of us, do they? They think we are weak, Taeho said. They believe our gravity makes us fragile. They call us floaters and soft bones. Hana frowned. That is strange. Earth's gravity is 1.0. Most species in the galactic community come from worlds with 0.3 to 0.6 gravity. We should be the strong ones here. I know, Taeho said. But they do not understand. They see our size and our soft skin, and they think we are breakable. They have never tested a human. They have only made assumptions. Hana nodded slowly. So, what is your plan? Wait for them to learn the truth? Something like that, Taeho said. I do not want to cause trouble. If I show off my strength, they might see it as a threat. They might become hostile. I need to wait for the right moment, a moment when showing my strength will help rather than harm. Hana studied him with respect. You are patient. Most people would have lost their temper by now. Patience is a skill, Taeho said. I have had to learn it. Over the next few days, Hana settled into the station. She was given quarters near Taeho, in the same low-status area. The Velkari treated her with the same disrespect they showed him. They called her names. They gave her the worst jobs. They laughed when she walked past. But Hana was strong in her own way. She did not fight back with fists. She fought back with words. Her translation skills were excellent, and soon the Velkari needed her help to communicate with other species on the station. They could not dismiss her so easily when they relied on her abilities. One evening, Taeho and Hana sat together in a small eating area. The Velkari food was strange, but they had learned to stomach it. They spoke quietly in Korean, so no one else could understand. I heard something today, Hana said. The workers were talking about you. Nothing good, I assume, Taeho said. Actually, they are confused, Hana said. They expected you to break down by now. They expected you to cry and beg to go home. But you keep working. You keep smiling. They do not know what to think. Taeho laughed softly. Good. Let them be confused. But some of them are getting angry, Hana warned. They think you are mocking them by not reacting. A few have talked about doing something worse. Something to really test you. Taeho felt a cold feeling in his chest. What kind of test? I do not know exactly, Hana said. But be careful. They are looking for a reason to send you home in failure. They want to prove that humans are not worthy of joining the galactic community. Taeho thought about this. He had known the mission would be dangerous. He had known the Velkari might try to hurt him, but hearing it confirmed made it feel more real. Thank you for warning me, he said. We are the only humans here, Hana said. We must look out for each other. That night, Taeho lay in his bed and thought about what Hana had said. The Velkari were planning something. Some kind of test. Some way to break him. He was not afraid of physical pain. His body could handle far more than the Velkari expected. But he was afraid of failing his mission. If he fought back too hard, he might start a conflict. If he did not fight back hard enough, they might kill him. He needed to find a balance. He needed to show strength without showing aggression. He needed to prove humans were powerful without proving they were dangerous. It was a difficult line to walk. One wrong step could ruin everything. But Taeho had trained for difficult situations. He had prepared for challenges that seemed impossible. This was just another mountain to climb. Another river to cross. Another weight to carry. He would find a way. The next morning, he went to work in the cargo bay as usual. The Velkari workers watched him more closely than before. They whispered to each other when he walked past. Something was different. Something was about to happen. Taeho kept his eyes open and his body ready. Whatever test they had planned, he would face it. He would not run. He would not hide. He was human, and humans did not break easily. The day passed slowly. Nothing happened. But the tension in the air grew thicker. The Velkari were waiting, watching, planning. Teho worked through his tasks one by one. He moved boxes. He cleaned floors. He checked supplies. And all the while, he stayed alert. The test was coming. He could feel it. And when it came, he would be ready. The alarm started screaming at midday. Teho was in the cargo bay, moving a heavy container across the floor, when the red lights began flashing. The sound was so loud, it hurt his ears. All around him, Velkari workers stopped what they were doing and looked up in confusion. Then came the voice over the station speakers. Even without his translator, Teho could hear the panic in the clicking words. Emergency in Cargo Bay 7. Structural collapse. Workers trapped. All available personnel respond immediately. Cargo Bay 7 was on the other side of the station. Teho had never been there, but he knew it was one of the largest storage areas. Thousands of heavy containers were kept there, stacked high on massive metal shelves. Without thinking, he started running. The low gravity made running strange. Each step sent him floating higher than he wanted. He had to push against the ceiling sometimes to keep himself moving forward. But he was faster than the Velkari around him. His earth-trained legs pushed harder. His earth-trained lungs pumped more air. He reached Cargo Bay 7 in minutes. What he saw made his stomach drop. A whole section of shelving had fallen. Massive metal beams lay twisted on the floor. Containers were scattered everywhere, some of them cracked open and spilling their contents. And under the wreckage, trapped and crying out in pain, were several Velkari workers. Station Commander Rilix was already there, shouting orders at the rescue team. But the team was struggling. The debris was too heavy. The Velkari did not have the strength to lift it. "We need cutting tools," one of the rescuers said. "We cannot move this by hand." "The tools are coming," Rilix said. "They will be here in 15 minutes. 15 minutes? Another worker cried. "They will die in 15 minutes. Look at them." Teho looked at the trapped Velkari. One of them was bleeding badly from a wound on its head. Another was pinned under a beam so heavy it was slowly crushing the air from its body. Their black eyes were wide with fear. They knew they were dying. Something inside Teho clicked. He could not wait 15 minutes. He could not stand here and watch these beings die. Even if they had mocked him, even if they had called him weak, they were still living creatures. They deserved help. He stepped forward. "I can help," he said. Rilix turned to look at him. The commander's face showed disbelief. "You? The floater? What can you possibly do?" Let me try," Teho said. Rilix laughed. It was a cruel sound. "Go ahead, human. Show us how weak you really are." Teho walked toward the wreckage. The other Velkari moved out of his way, watching with curious eyes. They expected him to fail. They expected him to try lifting the debris and collapse under its weight. They wanted to see him embarrass himself. Teho stopped in front of the largest beam. It was made of solid metal. On Earth, it would weigh several hundred kilograms. Here, in the station's low gravity, it weighed less. But it was still incredibly heavy by Velkari standards. He reached down and grabbed the beam with both hands. The metal was cold against his skin. He could feel the weight of it, even in the reduced gravity. This was not going to be easy. But easy was not something Teho needed. He needed possible, and this was possible. He pulled. His muscles screamed. His back strained. His legs pushed against the floor with all the strength his earth-born body could produce. And slowly, impossibly, the beam began to move. The Velkari around him went silent. They stared with their big black eyes, unable to believe what they were seeing. The human was lifting the beam. The soft bone was doing what their entire rescue team could not do. Teho gritted his teeth and kept pulling. The beam rose higher, higher, until finally, there was enough space for the trapped Velkari underneath to crawl free. "Move!" Teho shouted. "Get out now." The injured Velkari scrambled out from under the beam. Medical workers rushed forward to help them. Taeho held the beam for another few seconds, then carefully set it down. But he was not done. There were still more workers trapped under other debris. He moved to the next pile of wreckage. A stack of heavy containers had fallen on top of a young Valkyrie worker. The worker was crying out in pain, its thin legs crushed under the weight. Taeho grabbed the first container and lifted it, then the second, then the third. Each one was easier than the last. His body was adapting. His muscles were warming up. The strength he had hidden for weeks was finally being unleashed. The Valkyrie watched in silence as Taeho cleared the wreckage piece by piece. No one laughed anymore. No one called him names. They just stared, unable to process what they were seeing. Within 10 minutes, Taeho had freed all the trapped workers. 7 Valkyrie, pulled from the wreckage by a single human. A human they had called weak, a human they had mocked and insulted, and treated like garbage. Taeho stood in the middle of the cleared area, breathing hard. His arms were tired. His back was sore. But he felt good. He felt alive. Rilix stepped forward. The commander's face was impossible to read. "How?" Rilix asked. "How did you do this?" Taeho wiped sweat from his forehead. "Earth's gravity is not weak, Commander. It is stronger than most planets in the galaxy. My body was built to survive it. Here, in your 0.4 gravity, I am stronger than you can imagine." Rilix was silent for a long moment. The commander looked at the cleared wreckage, at the rescued workers being carried away by medical teams, at the human standing in the middle of it all. "You saved them," Rilix said finally. "You saved my people. They needed help." Taeho said simply, "I could help. So I did." Hana appeared at the edge of the crowd. She had heard the alarm and come running. Now she stood among the Valkyrie, watching Taeho with pride in her eyes. The other workers began to whisper among themselves. Taeho could not hear what they were saying, but he could guess. They were talking about him, about what he had done, about what it meant. The human was not weak. The human was not fragile. The human was something they had never seen before. Rilix turned to the crowd. "Clear this area," the commander ordered. "Get back to your duties. The emergency is over." The Valkyrie began to move away. But many of them kept looking back at Taeho. Their eyes were different now. The mockery was gone. Something else had taken its place. Something that looked almost like respect. Taeho walked over to Hana. She smiled at him. "That was amazing," she said quietly. "That was necessary," Taeho said. "I could not let them die." "I know," Hana said. "But you have changed everything now. They will never see humans the same way again." Taeho nodded slowly. He knew she was right. The secret was out. The Valkyrie knew what humans could do. There was no taking it back. He just hoped it would lead to good things instead of bad. Only time would tell. The story spread through the station like fire through dry grass. By the next morning, every Valkyrie on Station Valkar 7 knew what had happened in Cargo Bay 7. They knew about the human who had lifted beams that their strongest workers could not move. They knew about the 7 lives he had saved. They knew that everything they believed about humans was wrong. Taeho noticed the change immediately. When he walked through the hallways, Valkyrie no longer laughed at him. They stepped aside. They lowered their heads. Some of them even made a clicking sound that his translator identified as a sign of respect. "They are afraid of you now," Hana said as they ate breakfast together. "You can see it in their eyes." "I did not want them to be afraid," Taeho said. "I wanted them to respect us." "Fear is not the same thing." "Taeho, sometimes fear comes before respect," Hana said. "Give them time. They need to understand that you are not a threat." That afternoon, Station Commander Rilix called a meeting. All senior officers were required to attend. To Taeho's surprise, he was invited as well. The meeting room was large and circular. Valkyrie officers sat in seats arranged around the walls. Taeho and Hana were given seats near the door, the lowest position. But at least they were included. Rilix stood in the center of the room. The commander looked different today. The arrogance was gone. In its place was something more serious, more thoughtful. "We have made a mistake," Rilix began. "For many years, we have looked at the galaxy and judged other species by our own standards. We thought that because our world has zero point 0.7 gravity, we were strong. We thought that species from lighter worlds were weak, and we thought that species from heavier worlds were impossible." Rilix paused and looked directly at Tejo. "Earth has 1.0 gravity. We dismissed this as a small number. We assumed it meant humans were slightly less fragile than species from 0.3 worlds. We were wrong. We were very, very wrong." The other Velkari officers shifted uncomfortably in their seats. They did not like admitting mistakes, but they could not deny what had happened. "Yesterday," Rilix continued, "one human did what our entire rescue team could not do. He lifted debris that would have taken us hours to cut through. He saved 7 of our people with his bare hands. This was not luck. This was not a trick. This was real strength. Strength we did not believe was possible." Rilix stepped toward Tejo. "I owe you an apology, human. I treated you with disrespect. I called you weak. I was a fool." Tejo stood up. Every eye in the room was on him. He could feel the weight of the moment. "I accept your apology, Commander," he said. "But I want you to understand something. I did not save your people to prove a point. I did not do it to show off my strength. I did it because it was right. On Earth, we believe that all life has value. When someone is in danger, you help them. It does not matter if they are your friend or your enemy. You help them." The room was silent. The Velkari officers stared at Tejo with new understanding. This human was not just physically strong. He was strong in other ways too, ways they had not considered. Rilix nodded slowly. "I believe I have much to learn about your species." After the meeting, Rilix asked Tejo to come to the main observation deck. It was a large platform that extended out from the station, with windows that looked out into the stars. Very few workers were allowed there. It was a place for officers and important guests. Tejo followed the commander through the station. Hana came too, walking quietly beside him. They reached the observation deck and stepped through the doors. The view was beautiful. Stars stretched out in every direction. A distant nebula glowed purple and blue against the blackness. Tejo had never seen anything like it. "I brought you here because I want to show you something," Rilix said. "But first, I have a question. In the cargo bay, you lifted weights that should have been impossible. How much can you really carry?" Tejo thought about it. "On Earth, I can carry about 100 kilograms without too much difficulty. Here, in your gravity, that number is much higher." "Show me," Rilix said. "There is a cargo container on the upper platform. It weighs 200 station kilograms. Our strongest workers can barely roll it. Can you lift it?" Tejo looked up at the platform. It was about 3 meters above them. A large container sat at the edge. "I can try," he said. He walked toward the ladder that led up to the platform. But then he stopped. He looked at the distance. 3 meters. On Earth, that would be a significant jump. Here, in 0.4 gravity, it was nothing. He bent his knees and jumped. His Earth-trained legs pushed with the force they had developed over a lifetime of fighting gravity. In the low-gravity environment, that force sent him flying upward. He rose past the platform, almost hitting the ceiling before he came back down. He landed on the platform with a heavy thud, and then something cracked. Tejo looked down. Under his feet, the metal deck had fractured. Spiderweb cracks spread out from where he had landed. The reinforced station plating, designed to withstand the weight of heavy equipment, had cracked under the impact of a single human landing. Everyone stared in shock. "That is impossible," Rilix whispered. "That deck is rated for 5,000 station kilograms of pressure. How could you crack it just by landing?" Tejo looked at the cracks under his feet. He had not meant to do this. He had just jumped normally. But his body, his Earth-born body with its dense bones and powerful muscles, was simply too heavy, too strong, too much for this station to handle. "My bones are denser than yours," Teho explained. My muscles are stronger. When I jump on Earth, I barely leave the ground. Here, I am like a missile. I did not realize how much force I was creating. Hana climbed up the ladder to join him. She looked at the cracked deck with wide eyes. This is what Earth's gravity does to us, she said to Rilix. We are not fragile. We are compressed. Condensed. Every part of our body is built to survive a world that is constantly trying to crush us. When you take us away from that world, we become something else, something stronger. Rilix stared at the two humans standing on the cracked platform. The commander's whole understanding of the universe was changing. We called you floaters, Rilix said slowly. We thought your gravity was weak. We had it completely backward, did we not? Yes, Teho said simply. You did. Then what does that make you? Rilix asked. If you are not the weak ones, what are you? Teho thought about the question. He looked out at the stars, at the vast galaxy that was just beginning to learn about humanity. We are humans, he said. We come from a world that tried to crush us for millions of years. And we survived. We adapted. We became strong enough to leave our world and reach the stars. I do not know what that makes us in your eyes, but I know what it means to us. What? Rilix asked. Teho smiled. It means we do not give up. Ever. The news traveled faster than any ship could fly. Within days of the incident on Station Velkar 7, every species in the galactic community had heard about the human. The story changed a little each time it was told. Some versions said Teho had lifted a ship with one hand. Others claimed he had punched through a wall of solid steel. But every version agreed on one thing. Humans were not what anyone had thought they were. Teho became famous overnight. Communication requests flooded into the station from dozens of different species. Scientists wanted to study him. Military commanders wanted to recruit him. Political leaders wanted to meet him. Everyone wanted to know more about the strange creatures from the heavy-gravity death world called Earth. I do not understand, Teho said to Hana one morning. Why is everyone so interested? I just lifted some debris. I just jumped and landed. These are normal things, Hana laughed. Normal for us, maybe. But think about it from their perspective. Most species in the galaxy evolved on worlds with low gravity. They have thin bones and weak muscles. They cannot even imagine what we consider normal physical activity. To them, you are like a superhero from a story. Teho shook his head. I am just an engineer. I am not special. You are special to them, Hana said. And that means all humans are special to them now. You have changed how the galaxy sees our entire species. She was right. In the weeks that followed, everything changed. Station Commander Rilix personally apologized to Teho in front of the entire crew. The commander admitted that the Velkari had misjudged humanity. They had let their assumptions blind them to the truth. From now on, humans would be treated with full respect. Teho was moved out of his tiny room near the waste processing. He was given new quarters in the officer section. The room was large and comfortable, with a real bed and a window that looked out at the stars. It was more than he needed, but he accepted it gratefully. Other species on the station began approaching him. They asked questions about Earth, about human culture, about human strength. They wanted to know everything. Is it true that humans can run for hours without stopping? A Velkari scientist asked him one day. Yes, Teho said. On Earth, we call it persistence hunting. Our ancestors would chase prey for entire days, never stopping, until the animal collapsed from exhaustion. We are built for endurance. The scientist made a clicking sound of disbelief. That is terrifying. And wonderful. Your species is amazing. More ships began arriving at the station. Diplomats from across the galaxy came to meet the humans. Trade offers flooded in. Alliance proposals were discussed. Suddenly, Earth was not a small, unimportant world on the edge of the galaxy. Earth was the home of the heavy worlders, the death world survivors, the beings who had evolved to be stronger than anyone thought possible. 1 month after the cargo bay incident, Taeho received a message from Earth Command. He was being promoted, no longer just an engineer. He was now officially Earth's ambassador to the Valkyrie Confederation. Ha-Na was promoted to Chief Diplomatic Translator. Together, they would represent humanity to the galactic community. Can you believe this? Ha-Na said, as they read the message together. We came here expecting to be ignored. Now we are ambassadors. I never expected any of this, Taeho admitted. I just wanted to do my job and not cause trouble. You saved 7 lives, Ha-Na said. That was never going to be quiet. That was never going to be ignored. The formal ceremony was held in the station's main gathering hall. Hundreds of Valkyrie attended. Representatives from other species came too. Taeho stood at the center of the room, wearing a new uniform that Earth Command had sent up on the latest supply ship. Rilix stepped forward to speak. When the human first arrived on this station, the commander said, I called him weak. I called his species floaters. I believed that Earth's gravity made humans soft and fragile. I was wrong. I have never been more wrong about anything in my life. Rilix turned to face Taeho. This human showed us that strength is not about size. It is not about having a hard shell or sharp claws. Strength is about surviving, adapting, refusing to give up even when the universe tries to crush you. Humans have been doing this for millions of years. They come from a world that would kill most of us in minutes. And they did not just survive. They thrived. They built civilizations. They reached the stars. How? The commander raised a hand toward Taeho. Today, I am honored to welcome the human known as Taeho as Earth's official ambassador to our station. May this be the beginning of a long and peaceful friendship between our peoples. The room filled with the clicking sound of Valkyrie applause. Taeho felt his face grow warm. He was not used to this kind of attention. He did not like being the center of a crowd. But he understood why it mattered. This was not just about him. This was about every human who would come after him. Every human who would travel to the stars and meet new species. He was setting the example for all of them. He stepped forward and spoke. Thank you, Commander Rilix. Thank you to everyone here. I came to this station as a stranger. You did not know my people. You did not know our world. All you had were stories and assumptions. Some of those stories were wrong. Some of those assumptions were unfair. But I do not blame you for them. How could you know the truth if you had never met us? He paused and looked around the room. On Earth, we have a saying. Actions speak louder than words. I hope my actions have spoken clearly. Humans are not here to fight. We are not here to conquer. We are here to learn. To trade. To make friends. We have so much to offer each other. And I believe that together, we can build something wonderful. End quote. The clicking applause grew louder. Even the representatives from other species joined in, making their own sounds of approval. After the ceremony, Taeho stood by the window and looked out at the stars. Ha-Na came to stand beside him. You did well, she said. Earth would be proud. I hope so, Taeho said. There is so much work still to do. Treaties to negotiate. Misunderstandings to clear up. We are just at the beginning. I know, Ha-Na said. But at least now they see us as equals. That is more than we had before. Taeho nodded. He thought about the long journey that had brought him here. The months of travel. The weeks of insults. The moment when everything changed. He had not planned to become a hero. He had not planned to change how the galaxy saw humanity. He had just done what needed to be done, but maybe that was what being human really meant. Doing what needed to be done. Helping those who needed help. Never giving up. Even when the whole universe seemed to be against you, the stars glittered outside the window. Millions of worlds. Billions of species. An entire galaxy waiting to be explored, and humanity was finally ready to take its place among them, not as the weak ones, not as the floaters, but as the heavy worlders, the survivors. The species that had looked at a crushing gravity and said, "We will not break." Tejo smiled and turned away from the window. There was work to do.